Welcome to the show, folks. This is Wrestling Changed My Life. Here we go.
My phone buzzed. I had it on off ringer, and so we were just walking out, and I looked at it, and it was a message from our athletic director. So I call him up, and he just pretty much tells me, we dropped wrestling, we dropped football, and that was it.
We can endure anything and adapt and pivot and change. Wrestling gave us that ability.
I would say nothing in life has impacted me more than the things wrestling has taught me in terms of self-reflection, resilience.
Toughness. Some guys have it, some guys don't.
Adversity, 100%. How to pick myself up and be a man after I failed.
And everything that has shaped my life and where I'm at today would not be there without the values and basically the lessons I've learned through the sport of wrestling.
For me, wrestling saved my life because it allowed me to focus and channel my energy.
We're fortunate if you wrestled, because if you wrestled, natural talent helps, but it's 5% of the ingredient. It pales in comparison to heart and technique and effort.
It humbled me, taught me humility. Nothing can humble you more than wrestling. I think it's the learning to adapt, right? You learn how to adapt, you learn how to solve problems.
If I look back at my time I spent wrestling, if it gave me one thing more than anything else, it's mental toughness.
Ladies and gents, welcome back to the show. It's your host, Ryan Warner. My guest today is Mike Denney. Mike has been a coach for over 51 years and has won 7 national titles at the Division II level. On the eve of his 7th title at the University of Nebraska Omaha, almost 10 years ago now, he got a call from the athletic director who said that they were dropping wrestling. It was a massive shock to Coach Denney as well as the wrestling world. After that, he went to lead the Maryville program, which is where he's at now. And folks, you're going to hear from one of the great coaches of all time in this episode. You're going to hear about his coaching philosophy, his mindset for dealing with failure, and ultimately the story at UNO where the program was dropped after they had won their 7th national title. Hope you enjoyed. I know I did. Fan of the Week goes to Abner Roman. He's the wrestling coach at Collins Hill Youth Wrestling. Thank you for the support, good sir. Folks, this episode is brought to you by Gable the GOAT Part 2, which is a documentary podcast on Dan Gable, covering the years 1987 through 1993. If you want to find it in the feed, it's episode 109. You can also text Dan Gable, one word, to 555-888. That's DANGABLE to 555-888, and I'll text it to your inbox. That's it, folks. Let's give it up for one of the great coaches of all time, Mike Denney. Well, Andre Morgan tells me that you still send inspirational text to the guys. Is that true?
Yeah, I do that every morning. This is something I've done for probably about 20 years. It started out, we didn't have cell phones back then, so I would do I'd write down something. I call it Duke's Daily Dose. My nickname in college was Duke. And so I call it Duke's Daily Dose. So I started way back, probably I think it was about 20 years ago, because somebody asked me when did this start, and I dug up. So I would write it down, and then around Christmas time, I would type it up. I should clarify that. My wife would type it up. Remember the typing up, and you mimeographed it all. You turn the mimeograph thing, and I stapled it together, and I would send it out or hand it out. Then, of course, texting came in, and now I text our wrestlers and coaches every morning, other groups, different people that have asked, for it, and so our family gets it every morning. So it's over a couple of hundred now. So
where does it come to you from? Do you sit down and pray or meditate every morning, or does it?
Yes, I do. And somebody asked me the other day, and I said, well, let me take a picture of my 3 bookcases full of books that I read, and I think it's just important that they say and I honestly believe this. 2/3 of the English language, if you look at it, is negative, has a negative concept to it. So we got to, overwhelm that. So we start every practice that way. We call it a celebration, not a practice. Throw me some good. let's get some good going here. So they got to come up with some good things and just try to start that off. And then I blow the shofar every practice. Now, you wouldn't know what a shofar is, but that's a ram's horn. My biblical hero is David. And I found out, my wife and I went to the Holy Land 2 summers ago and found out, I went to Dave, supposedly his grave site, and I was really interested in that. And I found out that he blew this ram's horn before every battle that his elite fighting group went into, asking for God's blessing. So I blow that before every practice. I've been blowing it every morning. This stuff that's going on here. So, blow the shofar.
That's pretty.
I'm getting pretty good at blowing the shofar on that ram's horn.
It's pretty cool that you have that, though. I think there's something to be said for some type of either it's something you put on, a hat, a piece of clothing, or some type of ritual that signifies the beginning of battle, so to speak. So I really like that. And man, we need it right now more than ever. Now, I know you lived through Vietnam, and I believe your brother, he served in Vietnam. Is that right?
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
how does this compare to Vietnam in terms of the upheaval and the crisis and the fear?
Yeah, there probably is similarities to all of the things that we've gone through, but yet each one is different. I think this is something that is kind of worldwide. So, we've got, if you take a look at and actually, China has shared the DNA of this virus with the United States and other countries. So you've got all the top scientists and, biochemists or whatever working on it. So it's a global kind of thing, which I think can be a positive kind of thing, that we're working on it together. What's worked in this country, what's worked in that country. So, I'm trying to look at it from that point of view, yeah, but it's certainly, I like to think of them this way, as delightful challenges, but it's getting really delightful. It's certainly a challenge, and I use that term all the time just to think we got to look at it as a challenge, but working together. Firm believer in team power, that just working together, cooperative effort is always the best way.
Now, have you always been I'm going to use the term sage, just like a John Wooden type character? I mean, have you always been someone who always sees the positive in every situation? Like when you were back in your 20s, were you this way?
Well, gosh, I don't know. Grew up single parent, mom that just was a woman of great faith. Never had a high school education. Nobody in her family did. And she kind of held her family together. An alcoholic, wasn't around much. Father, and we just, we worked together on stuff and worked hard together. And went to a little one-room country schoolhouse. Had a different teacher every year. None of them had beyond a high school education, because to find teachers in those little rural schools, if you had a high school education, took 6 weeks of training, you can become a teacher in these little rural. So I was one of them. We had more than eight students. Used to ride a horse to school. Teacher rode a horse to school.
No, you didn't. Are you serious?
Yes. Yeah, serious. Yeah, and I always tell everybody, I graduated. I don't know if I was tops in my class. Now, there was only 2 in my class. So maybe I don't know if I was valedictorian. I may have been salutatorian. I'm going to claim I was valedictorian. There was 2 in the 8th grade when we graduated from that little one-room country schoolhouse. But, just farming, ranching, and, we loved work. And I kind of brought that into always tell our guys that we love work. It's just good, positive work, So I think, it goes all the way back to my mom, my brother, and I just, we had to pretty much stay that way. And, and of course she had a very strong faith. And sometimes maybe it's only a mustard seed.
I can't imagine there was much money growing up in that type of situation. So you guys really had an appreciation for the things you had, I could imagine.
Oh, yes. We milked cow, milked them by hand. Matter of fact, I still remember, that we milked by hand. So my brother would get on one side of the cow, I'd get on the other. And this is when we were smaller. My mom could milk 1 or 2 cows before him and I would get done with one. That's how she gets between. We sold our milk. Actually, we separated. You couldn't sell whole milk. You had to separate it into cream. You could only sell the cream. Nobody drank skim milk or used skim milk. We mixed it with grain and fed it to things.
Wait, what do you mean? When you say skim milk, is that just the milk that comes out, or I don't know.
Well, we separated. We had a separator, an old hand crank separator that separated the skim milk from the cream. So if you let whole milk set, the cream will rise to the top. So you could skim that off, but we had to do it quickly. So you had a separator that separated, and we sold the cream. You could only sell whole cream, not half and half, whole cream. That's all they would buy. And we would haul it in. We'd haul it in once a week and sell that in our eggs. Raised all of our own vegetables and stuff, in that little like a quarter section farm, that we had. And so that's kind of how we made it. So, I always tell everybody I'm up early because somebody's got to milk those cows.
Wow.
I'm on call. If anybody needs their cows milked, I'm on call, because my pastors are going, Coach, we get and sometimes you send it to us early, like 4 or 5 in the morning. I go, well, I'm on call. Maybe somebody needs their cows milked. They have no idea what I'm talking about, which makes it more fun.
I always wondered this, Coach. How did people in the winter get their fresh vegetables back then? There's no gardening.
We canned them. My mom canned them, and canning was huge. They canned, corn, tomatoes. You scrape the corn off of the sweet corn. Sweet corn, tomatoes, pickles. All that. Get this. We never. I can remember when we really didn't have electricity, and we got our mom the first phone when we went to college, the first landline phone.
Mm-hmm.
So, you had to make do, then we got electricity, and it was huge to have electricity. But, you may never really thought anything about it, because really, out in the ranching, farming areas, it wasn't like a lot of people had any much more than we did, and we got along just fine. Heck, we got along. Doggone, when those horses got out, this was fun because we got out of class to go chase the horses down.
And just for some context, what year were you born, Coach?
1947. Just turned 73, March 20th, first day of spring.
Wow. So really this wasn't, the 50s, though. You would think, I think back to the 50s. I don't think back to what you're describing. It must have been some of those rural parts of the country were still like that, though,
Right. And that was our church also. And so we had Sunday school, all the farmers, ranchers would come to our little schoolhouse, and my mom was, every year she was the secretary. I think she was the only one they trusted with the money. I don't think there was very much of it, but, it was a little donation. And she was our Sunday school teacher for all the ages. We only had one Sunday school teacher. I remember her, she really prepared for it. And then, of course, she had to do a lesson that the little ones up to, the bigger ones could hook up with. So, she was good at that. And then I remember we didn't always have, somebody there was an old piano in the schoolhouse. We didn't always have. I remember we had a lady one time that could only play with one hand because she didn't really know how to do it with two hands. So she I think we sang the same hymns about because that was all she knew.
Now, did you have any idea that people elsewhere were living a different way, or did you ever think, man, I wish things were different, or that was all you knew at that time?
It's kind of all we knew,
Yeah.
Shoot, going to high school, I have to tell you this story. So there was and his name was Max Heater. He was a grade ahead of me. And he went to rural high school. It was called Royal High School. There's 40 people in the town, but they had a high school then. And a lot of them, it was kind of, there was a lot more people that lived there. So, but he begged me when I was, would graduate from the 8th grade to come to Royal High School. Because at that time he was there was only 4 boys. And if I came, there would be 5 boys and they could have a basketball team. Because you could start the game with 5, but you had to have 5. So he begged me. And I wanted to wrestle. I wanted to wrestle and play football because I had some cousins and some farm kids, ranch kids that were talking about it. And I can remember we would wrestle around a lot. And once they'd been 1 or 2 years of high school, I could do okay with them when, they were still in grade school. And then they'd be whipping me and I go, dang, I want to learn how to do this. And I never went to Royal and he hasn't spoke to me since. They dropped the basketball team. He didn't get to play. But I went to Neely High School and had a really good coach who never wrestled. Roger Berry's in the Nebraska Wrestling Hall of Fame. And he got it started. I remember him bringing a book to practice, opening it up and looking at pictures and saying, okay, let's work on this today. And that's where he built a really successful high school program. Matter of fact, I still, I've adopted some of that, just the way he handled things. And I remember we practiced in the roller rink. We'd haul our mat down. We were the first one to get a Resolite mat out of Omaha and Lincoln. First, we picked up corn in the cornfields. When they ran pickers in the corn, they didn't get all the corn.
Mm-hmm.
So we would go through with a wagon and get our whole team out there and pick up the corn, and the farmer would give us some money for it, and that's how he bought this Resolite mat. And I remember the first day it was delivered to Neely High School, the school got out.
To see it.
To see it, because wrestling was big. I mean, we did well. I got to tell you one of the reasons we did well, though, is that he would go to other towns and take some of us along, and they'd help him start a program. And then we'd wrestle them the next year and beat the crap. About wrestling. So when he brought the mat, we rolled it out, and everybody was oohing and ahhing. And back then, Resolite had this advertisement that you could drop an egg from 10 feet. I'm not sure it was 10 feet, and it wouldn't break. So we had this balcony in our gym. He sent somebody up there with an egg and dropped the egg on this Resolite mat, and it didn't break, and the school went crazy.
That's impressive because I would think an egg would break on a wrestling mat from that far.
I would think so too, but maybe he had a hard-boiled egg. We always, we always laughed about that. He might have had a hard-boiled egg because we never really did see the egg after it.
Oh, wow.
But he made his point, and we had a Resolite mat that we hauled to the roller rink because we didn't have a place to wrestle. Didn't have a wrestling room. There was the gym, but they had that for basketball. So we went to the roller rink, which actually worked out pretty well because we could run around the outside. We only had one mat, so we'd have a group running or doing some, and then one group would wrestle. So it really worked well. Then we'd load it back up on the bus and take it back to school and unload it.
Oh, my God.
Our senior year, get this. Yes, I think it was our senior year. Larry Snyder was our coach. And Larry had wrestled in college. Larry still is, I've connected with him all, he wrestled at Concordia, I think, there in Nebraska. He really worked with me a lot. He was a heavyweight. We carried our mat to a church that was about a half a block from the school every day on our shoulders, pushed the pews back, rolled the mat out, and practiced. He would sometimes get up in the pulpit and coach just as kind of, and we'd laugh a little about it. We had a great year that year, Ryan. We had a really good year. So that's what we did. And we rolled it back up, carried it back up. And that's where, when we call it team power now. But, really, to carry that on your shoulders, you need the whole team. it was a one-piece mat.
Oh,
so we
my
carried it.
gosh.
We carried it. And, of course, it wasn't as big as, the mats now, but, it was a smaller mat. But anyway, we carried that thing.
I mean,
up and back.
So that's a time when, my dad is about your age, and he always tells me, he's like, the 60s were a really interesting time because, excuse me, up until like 65, 66, it was a completely different world than it was 67, 68, 69. But by that I mean people wore suits when they went out in public. It was just a really different time. And then you have the summer of 67, you have Vietnam, JFK is murdered, and like everything really starts to change in the 60s. And so I'm always really envious of people who got to live through that. And you did, obviously, and you did it right in the heartland of America. I mean, I can't even imagine how different a wrestling practice must have been then. But then again, maybe you say it's actually pretty similar. I mean, how has it changed, just the structure of a practice back in the 60s to how it is now?
Well, honestly, man, I don't remember. I mean, you still, all the strength and conditioning was always all body weight. It's really interesting how we have circled back. I don't know if you remember, we went to the Nautilus machines, and then all the machines, and then I don't know if you remember the old Universal machine where you went around this thing and had all the different exercises on it. Pretty much a lot of them bought it and put it in their corner of the gym, or a corner of kind of where you worked out, where it had 5 or 6 different exercises you could do on it, but now we've circled back to a lot of body weight stuff that we did back then. We ran stairs, or we ran hills, or and we've circled back to a lot of that, push-ups, sit-ups, and I think we have come full circle on a lot of that stuff. But just the anaerobic training, aerobic combination of anaerobic and aerobic training, and of course, running was, doing a lot of running was big then, and probably not the distance that we did back then is so now, but yeah, sure, we did a lot of the same stuff. I can remember we made our first set of weights. We got some bars. I think some of us farm ranch kids brought the bars in. We stuck them in a pail, filled it up with concrete, got it set up, and turned it over to the other side. So that was a lot of our weights. That was the first. Another thing we did a lot of was rope climbing. About every gym we went to had a rope that was to the top of the ceiling. They've taken those out because that was a long way up back then, and then it was a little dangerous. I'm sure some people fell off of that thing, but and of course in the gym classes they climbed ropes all the time. But that was real popular for grip. So we tried to we'd come back to the gym and climb that rope. I think we had to do it once before and once after, and of course you learned how to use your legs a lot.
Yeah.
Some could go up without their legs back then, especially some of the lighter weight.
So a lot of similarities, and I think to your point, body weight is coming back, and it's funny. My first recollection of ever going to the community center is what we called it. I grew up in a small town in western Illinois, but it did have that Nautilus machine in the middle, and it was kind of awkward, right? Every exercise imaginable was on this one machine, and it was kind of like you would move around clockwise and hit a different exercise. But then they took that out, so I never really thought about it like that. And from what I read, you had aspirations of going on and playing in the NFL from high school on, and ended up playing for the Omaha Mustangs. Was that a semi-pro team back then?
Yes, yeah. We really wanted to play in the NFL, and probably my last couple of years of college, had that aspiration. I never really got drafted. I had a couple of free agent tryouts, and I had my college football coach, Sam Sample, at the time, he had played for a Lincoln semi-pro team. And the Omaha was starting this new team. Actually, it wasn't a new team. They already had kind of a semi-professional team, but they there was a new league starting called the Continental Football League. And it was kind of a forerunner of what we have now, the USFL and what's this new one now, the
XFL.
XFL, really similar to that. So he got me hooked up, and they sent a guy up and scouted me, watched some of my film, the Mustangs, and they signed me to a contract. And, of course, that was back, my brother was in Vietnam. And, that was when you drew a number, you were drafted off your number. So my senior year, I had I had to get my appendix out, but my number came up. I had to go in for my physical, and I thought, well, I'm going, I'm going in, and geez, then pretty much everyone went to Vietnam. And my brother was saying, he was telling me, he said, no, brother, it's getting rough over here, because that was when everybody was protesting it, and didn't know why we were over there, and he said, it's getting tough over here. So I went for the physical, and on the last day, they had us all standing there naked, and he was just walking down the line, the doctor, and he looked at the surgery, and he said, when did you have that? I said, I don't know, a week ago. He said, get out of here. Come back in a month or so, or whatever he said. And, they didn't want to take me in there when I just had a surgery. So then the Mustangs, Jack Payne was player personnel. He got my wife and I, we got married that summer, interviews with the public schools of Ralston Public Schools, Gretna Public Schools down in that area there. And we got offered a job. Well, back then, teachers got deferred. So the Mustangs, we practiced in the evenings under the lights and traveled on the weekends and flew to our games. And we flew to Orlando, Florida, Norfolk, Virginia, Little Rock, Arkansas, Texarkana, Texas, San Antonio, Las Vegas. Played our games, but we practiced and played on the weekends so guys could have jobs. And we got paid, during the season you could maybe make it kind of, but once they couldn't pay, off season. So I did that for 7 years. Wow. I actually played longer than any player ever played for the Alma Mustangs. And it folded in 1976. It folded. The team folded. Similar to what, a lot of teams, a lot of leagues have done. We weren't always the Continental, but we had full-time coaches. We flew to games. They really, and then of course it kind of tailed back. And we traveled on buses then sometimes. But I loved it. I loved playing. I was actually a player coach for 2 years. But where I was doing the practices and then deciding who was starting, and, I was an offensive lineman. And I was in charge of the offensive defensive line, and I don't know. I had this, watching film and thing. It was, and I said, I don't want to do this anymore. They got a Jerry Wilkes he was a great player and played professionally for a while at Nebraska, became our line coach. And that's when we really kind of took off as a team. Boy, our last couple of years, we actually ranked number one in semi-pro football. The Alma Mustangs were in those years. And it was a great time playing with a bunch of great guys that loved to play.
How did you have any time for
my gosh,
for the rest of your things? Because from what I understand, you'd work out in the morning. What time would you get up in the morning back then, if you can remember?
I was still early because I had to get to school in time to work out before I started teaching.
So you worked out, you taught math, you coached a high school team, and then you did practice, and then you're gone on the weekends.
Went out to practice. Yep. Oh my gosh! Don't tell my wife. I don't know why she put up with me and why I did that. But of course, it was seasonal.
Yeah.
It was seasonal. And, but then I started coaching wrestling, or was coaching wrestling, and that went longer. And then I got into judo. I missed the wrestling, the one-on-one. So when it came to Alma, I didn't have any idea what judo was. I can't remember how I even got connected. I went to this dojo, called them dojos. Got hooked up with Gilo Lee. This guy's, he had a really good club. I thought, dang, I think I'd like this. And, it's wrestling with a gi on. And, of course, the judo and jiu-jitsu's got, a jiu-jitsu
right,
also now,
right.
But it's gotten really popular with mixed martial arts. But started doing that, and then in the off-season, then I could train with that and compete. And really, wrestling, if I hadn't wrestled, I wouldn't, it made me a football player. It helped me so much in football, especially in the offensive defensive line. I remember watching Iowa play this year, and one of the things they said was the whole offensive line was former wrestlers, former heavyweight wrestlers. And they had a good offensive line.
Yeah. No, I saw that this year as well. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
So it really helped me with that and gave me a chance to still train, and I'd compete in tournaments and stuff. I really did that till I was about 40. Just loved kind of competing in it and working with it. So, yeah. And I got her sons involved in it. They all have ranks, in judo, and got them going to the club that I went to, and we've done a lot of that kind of together. I actually had her daughter in it for a while. She wasn't crazy about it. Well, she could have been the wrestler, though. She could have been the wrestler. Dang, they all got into soccer. Of course, our sons, played 3 sports. They were football players. And actually, I shouldn't say this. They played basketball.
Oh, man.
I know, but they did. And they asked me, they both said, Dad, do you care if we play? I think they saw so much of wrestling because I had them, how'd I get to see them? They all came, they were tapping, the referees and working, and setting up mats, and we just all did it together. My wife worked the gate. We put her in the Coughlin Brand Bailey Hall of Fame a number of years ago, but because she had worked every tournament.
Wow.
She didn't get to see many matches because she was always out front working in the concession stand. Oh my gosh, bless her heart.
I heard that your wife used to go on recruiting trips with you as well.
Oh yeah, I really enjoyed taking her along. All 3 of our oldest son Rocky, and our middle son Mickey and Luke, they all got recruited. So I sat at the table when those coaches would come in. And that was a different place for me. So I think I learned a lot from that. And also, I still tell recruits this, and I'll even, when I used to take her on home visits, I said, what's the most important thing? And she would always tell the parents, or single parent or whatever it was, the most important thing is go to a place that cares about you. So that's just held true with me. It's one of my C's of my coaching philosophy. Celebrate the time with them, communicate with them, demonstrate you care, demonstrate you're committed, and demonstrate that I'm also still coachable. So those are my 5 C's, and one of those is demonstrate you care. So I think that is the most important, and I tell parents this, I don't want to ever sit down with your son, and it would be a son now, because I remember coaching my daughter's league soccer team. And one of the things she did tell me that really hit home, she said, Dad, you're not like my dad when you coach. And I go, you know what? That was a wake-up call for me. She was smaller then. And, that was really kind of a wake-up call. But, I want to demonstrate I care, and when I'm talking to them, I see it from a parent's point of view. And, of course, I can approach it a little differently now. I can approach it more from that father figure point of view. Maybe I guess a younger coach could so much. But, as far as, I think that's most important, and something we got to strive to do.
And you hit on something I wanted to move into, is your coaching philosophy, because you are one of the all-time winningest college coaches, if not the all-time winningest college coach. I'm not sure on the stats, and it doesn't matter, but when you are at the other school, as we'll refer to it as, we have to spend some time there. We have to spend some time there just because of the events that unfolded. You were the head coach at University of Nebraska Omaha for 32 years.
32 years.
And we're going to talk about what happened there, but you developed really a dynasty that I don't think people really understand unless you're in the Division II ranks and really get what's going on there. And I know you don't like to talk about your stats, Coach, but hit us with how many national titles you won and how many top 8 finishes you had during your tenure there.
Well, let's see. I have to tell you, the reason I remember this is my assistant coach put this together. He was showing me this the other day, and we were able to win, 7, individual, the individual national champ. I think there was also 7 dual meet championships. But I think one of the things we're most proud of is just the consistency. And I think that's one of the toughest things to do, and in athletics. And I think we were either in the top 4 of the national duels since, and of course they didn't, or the top 4 of the national tournament itself, I think 42 times. But so, I think that's the thing I tell. And here's what the mission is to help teach and build. And when you're within that, if you can, that's the priority. Within that, if you can, in the process of developing, if you can have some success, you want them to have some things on their resume. If you can, get some things on their resume, for example, the team gets what we call the platform, as a top 4 team, whether it's in the national duels or the national tournament at the end of the year, that's something on their resume as a team, So I think, within that, helping teach and build, and then I just help. I just help. You've got to get a culture that buys into that. Just that's the mission. To help teach and build. And I want to tell you a great definition of this. And we have a banner of each one of our guys in our dojo, and on each one of the banners we have them come up with a word for the year, and sometimes they change it, a word that kind of resonates with them. They want it to resonate through the year. And mine has always been, for a number of years, just coach. But I want to give you my definition. A coach is a covered carriage that takes an important person from where they are to where they want to go. A coach is a covered carriage that takes an important person from where they are to where they want to go. So think in terms of a covered carriage as your program or your dojo, your wrestling room. That's a covered carriage. Takes an important person. You invite that person into your carriage. And while they're in that carriage, you're helping teach and build and helping them get to a place that, that they would want to go and that you would guide them to, so to speak. So I love that definition, and I try to think of that, when we're doing in our program. And we have 9 pillars with that. But so,
what are your 9 pillars?
The middle pillar is family, team power, and I think everything kind of resonates, from that. From recognize and promote your program. I think you have to do that, and your athletes. That's why in our dojo, we have a banner of every one of our wrestlers. Every one of them is up, hanging up. We're in the banners. There are all kinds of banners up. And we spotlight them when we have meetings in there. And we actually allow our faculty meeting in there every year. There's about 160 on our faculty. And there they think I'm being a nice guy. But when they come in, we've got all these banners lit up with spotlights with all of our guys' pictures on. And then we have whether they made the dean's list, they're an All-American, they're a Scholar All-American. We have their words on it, and they're always at. And I'm like the Walmart greeter. I'm out front. I'm the Walmart greeter. I think, what? Here in a few years, I think I might have a calling there. So anyway, I'm greeting them, and I'm just think we're being, gosh, they let us. We put carpet down, we set up tables for them, let them use our screen for their presentations. But here's all these banners with all their accomplishments and all their banners up with all these things spotlighted. And I see him point. I've got him in the class. Gosh, he does a great job for me, that kind of thing. So that's a pillar. Recognize, promote, and market your program along with team power. Another one huge for me is clean engine power. I'm big on this. Our father was an alcoholic. I saw what that did to him. And so if I can keep them clean, and one of the things we do is they do a handwritten contract for us and sign it and date it every year of staying clean, staying free of alcohol and other drugs. I want to tell you, this last 2 years, and I always tell this team they're special. The last 2 years, I haven't smelled alcohol or marijuana on one of our guys in the last 2 years at a practice or any other time, and I'm around them all the time. That's the first time in my 51 years I haven't. In high school was the worst. I mean, that was a battle in high school, just kind of keep you that. And the importance of having a clean engine. And also, that goes into nutrition too. But, my thing is just, if I can keep them just alert and aware and on guard of how detrimental this can be to them, the use of alcohol and other drugs. I've just seen it, and it's whooped me many times, as far as our athletes are concerned, just getting hung up in that stuff, and I just, dang.
Did you ever have any bouts with it in your younger days?
No, not so much. I've had that. I had reasons not to be, because I saw all the, the abuse from it, how it changed a person, just how it changed them. I've always said, later years, before I really grasped all this, our father did not want to be that way. He didn't want to be that way. Nobody would want to be, what he. I mean, but that's what it did to him. And so that's kind of my motivation, and, we have our, anytime we have alumni around close, I don't get as many of them as I used to down here in Missouri. It's down in Missouri, right?
Yeah, I know.
Missouri. So, but whenever they come in, I have visit with our team and share wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. And a lot of them will talk about how important that was for them. And, I'll tell you what I did. I would used to invite our athletes up there in the fall when they came in. I wouldn't tell them when. I invited them down and we hair tested them. We hair tested every athlete. And the hair can tell you what they've taken in their body for the last 90 days. So they knew that was going to happen. And it seemed like the tougher we got on it, the better we got. So, and our guys were proud of it. And you got to get your culture to buy into it, If your culture doesn't buy in, it's going to whip you. It'll whip you. I mean, it'll just, as a coach, it'll defeat you. It just creeps in. It's powerful, I mean, it's cunning, deceiving, and powerful. So you can see why I'm into it. But that's one of our pillars, and then to develop them, just their leadership. We do strength finders. I don't know if you or Clifton Strengths. I always use this. The book, The Art of War. It's, I don't know how many pages, but it's a hard read. But it basically comes down to, if you want to win the war, Sun Tzu wrote this, 2,400 years ago or 2,300 years ago. Know yourself, know the enemy, know the terrain, get numbers on your side. So if you can really use that in just about anything. First of all, you got to know yourself. So we really try to, help them understand, their own personality, what kind of makes them tick. And you can do this with these personality profiles, and we really get in depth with it. And then we know each other, so kind of what's making that other guy, what's he all about, and get to know each other and kind of, see it through their eyes a little bit. And you got to know yourself. You got to know the enemy, and the enemy doesn't necessarily, it can be and it could be your professor. You got to know your professor. What's that professor want? And know the terrain. You got to know your opponent. You got to know the terrain. We got to know Division II wrestling. We got to know, we have to, and then we've got to get numbers on our side. We've got to get a culture of team power that's buying into the same things. So. And we actually put their top 5 strengths on each one of their lockers. So when we walk in there and when we're doing a wash, we do our own wash, we do our own, we do all that stuff ourselves. And then, so when we hang it up on their locker, we can kind of see, and they can see ours. Ours are on there too. So they know I'm a maximizer. That's one of I have to maximize. And so sometimes they'll make jokes about it, and they say, well, coaches all kind of wrought up. We're not maximizing, so let's go to work. We got to maximize, or he's not going to be happy.
What does that mean? Does that mean like you're all in on something, or what does that mean?
Well, yeah, and you've got to get your, for example, to give you a classic example right now, our university is locked down, right? We can't even get into our dojo. So are we going to put it on pause? No. We're going to Zoom our guys for team meetings. You know what Zoom is?
Of course. Yeah, of course.
The connection. Okay,
yep.
We're Zooming our guys. I'm having guest speakers come in. Matter of fact, Wednesday, Dr. Jack Stark, a good friend of mine, sports psychologist, one of the best. And, he's written, 7 books. And we're going to have him visit with our team, them asking questions. We're going through, and the thing is, adversity reveals character. We have a big character banner in our dojo, and you have to display adversity under character, or character under adversity. So I'm going to have him visit with the team. On Friday, we've got our vice president, Jeff Miller, who's an administrator and done so much work with us on their strengths. Is how they're reacting to this will probably depend on their personality. So he's going to talk about that, and so we can kind of identify why are some of us reacting the way we're reacting. So we're going to have to put it on pause. We're going to survive, right? But we're going to prosper. We have to. We can't be putting it on pause.
Is it normal for you to have team meetings outside of the traditional wrestling season?
Oh yeah.
So
we do. We do. So it's nothing really.
Okay.
Although we can't even get together now. We can't physically be together, so we've got to do it on Zoom. Well, I didn't know what Zoom was till about a week ago. I figured out how are we gonna do this? And my assistant says, the professor we have that helps us, with Dr. Keener, he's a professor that really is kind of adopted us. So we do Zoom. That's how Maryville's still going on right now. All their classes are online through Zoom. So we said, okay, let's Zoom them.
It's an amazing technology, isn't it?
Yeah, so we can actually do that. Let's not put it on pause. Let's grow from it, and again, it comes back to one of my C's is communicate. Okay, so let's find a way to communicate, and of course, then we're doing virtual tours of our dojo to recruits.
Wow.
And then we're giving them links to virtual tours to the campus. So we can't, no pause. I guess you pause until you figure out how you're going to prosper.
What are some of your other strengths that are written on your locker, Coach?
Oh, my strengths?
Yeah.
Okay, so I got a little saying that helps me with be my partner in relating and responsibility. So B stands for belief. I've got to keep, I got to believe, in something much bigger than myself. B, my stands for maximizer. I realize that, I'm going to constantly be, working to maximize our situation. That's just kind of who I am. And, be my partner in relating and be my partner. Partner is positivity. One of my strengths is positivity.
Definitely.
In relating, I have to relate. I love recruiting. One of the things about recruiting, I want to relate to them. I have to relate. And I have to get them relating to us. This is a fit for you, and then I feel a tremendous responsibility to each one of those guys, to each one of our coaches, to Maryville. So I have to realize that about, so those are my top 5 strengths. And, the thing is sometimes, though, you have to dial it down a little bit because you can get yourself out of balance. And I'd have to say early in my career, with all the stuff I was doing, I'm just so fortunate that I had a wife. I remember one time Dr. Stark had her and I talked to a bunch of CEOs that he was working with who were gone a lot or, kind of on a mission. so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And so I gave my little pitch, and then she got up. And it was so smart of him to have the spouse talk to these, and they were men and women that were in the crowd, because some of them were, kind of career women that. And she said, I realized early in our marriage that if I didn't join him on the journey, I was going to lose him. And that just about dropped me to my knees. Us men, we're a sorry lot most of the time. And the thing is, you don't realize you get on this mission, where's the balance? So that has been, and I know I even told one of our wrestlers the other day, I have individual meetings with all of our wrestlers after every competition. We sit down and talk, the communication.
Every competition even?
Every competition, I sit down with every wrestler.
Wow.
And spend time talking to them. And you know what? I spend time listening.
Mm-hmm.
I try not to talk very much.
I got to tell you, though, I got to tell you about the thing you just mentioned about your wife is it really resonates with me because I'm someone who's fanatic about things, certainly this podcast and many things in life, but sometimes it's easy to lose sight of the balance. So that it's something that's going to stick with me for quite some time is what your wife said there. But I mean, because I really do believe that if you don't have everything right at the home, anything outside the home that's successful really doesn't matter. And I know I'm not the first person to say that, but someone said that to me in January during one of these interviews, and it really stuck with me. And I'm like, man, that is exactly right. But sometimes it's hard to remember that.
Oh, I can tell you, I was sitting down with one of my wrestlers the other day, and I said, I had to talk to him. He's had neck surgery and stuff, and it's been a tough year for him. I said, I have visited more with you than I have this last year with all of our kids and grandkids put together. Now
that's saying something.
We have seven grandkids. One of them's a freshman in college. He's playing soccer at Baker University, and the all other ones involved in sports and doing different kinds of things. All three of our kids are coaching. I mean, they're all coaching in some manner, either club or our daughter was the head soccer coach at the University of Minnesota for 11 years. But she actually resigned from there because she told me one day, she called and said, "Dad, somebody else is raising my boys." She was gone so much in the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you, it's different for a woman, isn't it? A little different for a woman.
Yeah.
It just is different. And not that it should be. We just kind of overlook that. But that's been the tough part, finding that balance. And I think they all understood it, but that's been the tough part. It's even the tough part now. Going on 52 years here. The grandkids are growing up. Yeah, starting 52 years of coaching this next year. So you think I know how to do it, but Ryan, I still mess it up. What's the deal? I'm still messing it up.
It's like, man, I don't know. There's people, people who, like you and I, who are all in on something. I think it's a beautiful thing. But my father struggles with alcoholism, so you can go the wrong way there. I've had my bouts with things like that in the past, and it's like if you don't have an outlet for that energy, it can go in the wrong places. But even if it's a good outlet like coaching or like podcasting, there still needs to be a balance. And man, if it isn't one of the incredible struggles or constant kind of wrestling matches of life that goes on, it's just like, I mean, even your wife, to leave Nebraska after all those years and go with you to Missouri. I mean, that's just a big testament to her, and just a good reminder to hear you say that.
Yes, and it kind of, one of the things, another thing we have our guys do is come up with a brand of what would you, and actually 6 of them have tattooed their brand, and one father has tattooed his son's brand.
Wow.
So anyway, we throw them. So my brand, this is years ago, how we came up with this is we branded our cattle.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
And it was a D with a 3, if you can visualize a D, then the 3 is backward on the D. And they don't brand cattle anymore. Hardly anybody does. They put a chip in them and they check them with a drone. They don't ride a horse. But that's just, but it's like, if we could get our wrestlers to come up, because the brand you put on, that went back generations, that meant something. You defended that. This has grown through the years, and we have an 8-foot by 8-foot banner, and we did in our other dojo too, of all the brands for every year. So we have 9 brand banners up. Well, my brand, I adopted this, and I wanted to be the Star of David, because David is my biblical hero, and he was the only one in the Bible that says after God's heart, being after God's heart. But the Star of David was 6 points. I don't know if you remember when Hitler made the Jewish people wear the Star of David.
Yeah.
I used only 5 points because I had 5 C's. So I took out a star. I hope David doesn't mind. But I'm not Jewish. So.
Gotcha.
So I have a 5-star. That's my brand. In the middle of it is our brand. We branded our cattle with, and then the 5 C's are on each point, and then the 5 S's of the 5 things we have to guard against: self, silver, money, substance abuse, sloth, laziness, and sex. Mm-hmm. So I have the 5 S's, the 5 C's, the D with the 3 in it, and then I have the Black Panther in it. Now, our guys have taken this, and they do this has grown to a point where our guys, in our yearbook we do every year, we have a picture of them with their holding up their, with a description. We make it, it's big with our team, big team thing. So, but, I have the Black Panther because I got the opportunity. I'm a judo jiu-jitsu guy, for 50 years. So the Japanese, we call our, our wrestling rooms a dojo. Mm-hmm. Our battle cry is Zeus. All that's Japanese, comes from the Japanese. And I really wanted to go to the Olympics this year and go over there and watch the judo and wrestling and go to a dojo and be able to work out. It doesn't look like that's going to happen.
No, it doesn't. As of today,
so
especially.
Anyway,
yeah.
Going back to, the dojo and what it is. But the Black Panther was given to me by the descendant of a samurai a number of generations ago.
Wow.
He was a descendant, and my wife was the one that hooked up to him. I married one of our wrestlers. I married a couple of wrestlers now. So I married one of our wrestlers, and at that get-together, those two, my wife has had a near-death experience. This guy had 7 near-death experiences. They just connected. They just went to each other, started talking. We had breakfast with him, and during the breakfast, I found all this about him, that he's a descendant of a samurai shogun, and he's, just all that background. And then he just threw it right out. He says, "Coach, you need to adopt in your philosophy the Black Panther." I go, "What are you talking about?" And I knew right away, I need to put it on my brand. And he told me the Black Panther is a symbol of loyalty. In the Japanese culture, is to be loyal. Because the Black Panther is the only cat where the father and the mother will defend the cubs and defend each other. Even a house cat, the male will kill the kittens. Yep. I don't know if you knew that. And the lion does the same thing. The mother has to protect it. The Black Panther, if you harm one of theirs, the rest of them will hunt you down. So loyalty, he says, you need to have that. I said, okay, that fits. So it's on my brand. So anyway, I wanted to tell you about my brand. So,
wow. So my ADD has gotten the best of us here, but I want to go back to your pillars for the program. We hit on a couple. I feel like we have a couple to go.
Okay.
Trying to think to where we left off. I believe that what was
academics.
Yep.
Academics is huge with us. Our team has won the academic national championship the last 2 years. Last year we set the all-time record. We had the highest GPA ever recorded in Division II wrestling since they've been doing this. We had a 3.56. This year we're going to have a 3.65. If some team beats us, good for them.
Right.
At 3.65.
That's incredible.
For our GPA. So academics is huge with us. The not only the leadership development, but the athletic development, right? I mean, we've got to develop them, athletically. With wrestling, we've got to, and then prevention and care of athletic injuries. We got to have a trainer that connects, that, get your guys back. And, your wrestlers got to connect with them. So I think that's really, really important. I think most people underestimate the value, because when somebody is injured, it's like they got leprosy, nobody talks to them. And your trainer can be such a huge positive force there. If they're bought into your program, our trainer goes to retreats with us, and he has his own brand, and, he is bought in. So he can be a positive force for somebody that really needs it. Maybe more so than some of the other guys.
So he's as much of your team as some of the coaches, you might say.
Oh, yes, definitely. I think that's underestimated a lot of times. I think they, that part is truly, underestimated. So I don't know if I've given you all 9 yet, but I've given you a lot of them.
The one thing that stood out to me was that we're an hour in, and I know we have to wrap up here soon. At least I do. But one, we got to have you back on, because there's just so much more to cover. But two, we haven't talked really at all about wrestling, and that's more than okay with me, because one, it just speaks to how you run your program, in the sense of, you're an incredibly successful coach, but as you're telling me all these things, I'm thinking, man, if you had a team that actually buys into all this and really believes it, and really buys into you, like, the wrestling's going to take care of itself, because these guys are going to be so well connected, so sound mentally, that the wrestling stuff should take care of itself. And I'm telling you, if you haven't read this book by John Wooden, it's a little blue book. It's called My Observations, and I'll send it to you. But man, this reminds me of that conversation so much, because he's big on, he doesn't even have, when Coach Wooden was alive, he wouldn't even have to watch the game to know if it was a success or not, because the success to him was determined in the preparation. So if the preparation was as clean and polished as it could be, to him, they were already national champions. It didn't matter what the actual score was, or if they won or lost. And to me, it sounds like you have a similar mentality, in the sense that if you have well-rounded people who know themselves, they live a clean life, they are already successful in your eyes, and the winning will really take care of itself.
Well, here's a mission that goes along with this, helping teach. I want to master the art of encouragement.
Yes.
I haven't done that. But sometimes you're needed most is when they're going through, and probably most of the time through the adversity, the hills and valleys, the mountain canyons, the sunshine and the shadows, and that's when when they hit those low points, is when you can work on being a master encourager. Master that art. It's an art, and I haven't mastered it yet. But that's when you can really, I think, be able to be a message or a messenger to really kind of help them along, so it's kind of along with helping, teach, and build. The thing is, they're going to hit adversity, and we're hitting one now.
Mm-hmm.
So how can we master the art of encouragement in this time? And the tough part about it is when I try to actually make eye contact, punch him in the arm, or handshake, or look him in the eye for every guy every day. That's my goal. Every guy on our team, every coach on our team, and not every day do I do that, but now this is really difficult for me to do it now. I'm really struggling with this. I can't do that. So how can I master the art of encouragement when I can't see them? I can't really actually touch them with my voice, or just looking them in the eye, or, wrestling around with them, or, let them still do judo with me. They'll put on the gi and say, "Coach, let's do some judo," and that kind of thing. So, that's the tough part about it. But then, okay. So this is the hand we're dealt. I actually gave him a talk about the hand we're dealt. Let me tell you, but I had the card deck that I was playing with them, or I was showing them, everyone was a face card. Because I said, that's what we got in this group. we got everyone use a face card. We're playing with a great deck. So now we've got to play these cards the best we can with what we've been dealt. So that's kind of the approach we're taking.
And that's the reality we're in right now. I mean, I have to hit on this. I know we're coming close on time, but I have to hit on this. I'd be doing the wrestling world a disservice by not doing so. So, Coach, you put together a run of 6 or 7 titles in 8 years back when you were at the other place, as I'll so aptly describe it. You complete a second repeat in 2011. You had won your 3rd straight title, and as I mentioned, 6 or 7 in an 8-year period. The night of your national tournament, where you just won the national title, you get a call from the school. What did they say to you, and what transpired then?
Well, so for some reason, Ryan, after that national tournament, I told our guys, we got off that platform and a lot of parents were there because it was at Nebraska Carney. So a lot of, we had a lot of boosters that, just parents and, just family members. And so I said, you know what, guys, I said, I want you, we'll get together at the hotel and we'll talk about it and, that kind of thing. But right now, savor this. I want you to take some time. We're not going to rush out of here. I don't know why I said that. And for some reason, I had no clue this was going to happen. I had no idea. So then and I'm just during the meeting at the hotel, packed, and where I'm just, bragging about the guy, just what we, the coaches and just what because we really went through some adversity, and then we talk about consistency and he's a great bunch of guys, My phone buzzed, I had it on off ringer, and so we were just walking out, and I looked at it, and there was a message from our athletic director. I go, man, I told my wife, she was right there with me as always, and she said, well, so who's that? I said, it's from our athletic director. I said, he couldn't be calling me to congratulate me because he's never congratulated us. We had won the national championship the year before at home, sold out, packed house, never even came to it.
He wasn't there?
No. Heck no.
Oh,
not at all. Not at all. So anyway, this is something's weird about this. I said, there's no way he's calling to congratulate. So I get up and I listen to the message, and I actually, when outside the lines did the, outside the line, he did a thing on it, and I actually played that message, and I still have it on one of my cell phones. I'll never take it off. And it just said, I got a message. I want you to call me. I got a tough message I got to tell you. So I call him up, and he just pretty much tells me, we dropped wrestling, we dropped football, and that was it. I was just, what? I go, what? I'm just, you're kind of in shock.
Did you have any inkling at all? Any rumblings?
No inkling at all.
Nothing.
No. Well, I knew that they were thinking about Division I, but I was assured by the chancellor, who's the president, that we would never do that. Who was a personal friend.
Was he at the after party?
And he was at the meet, and it was the first time in all the national championships that his picture he wasn't in the picture. And we couldn't find him when we took the picture up on the award stand, up on the platform.
Coming. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he knew it was coming. And I considered him a person. He was a college wrestler. He helped us with our kids tournament. The guy was, and just, so, and I go, what? And, he'd only been, the athletic director had only been there a year and a half. He was, who he is and stuff,
Yeah.
So,
how many hours after the tournament do you think you get this call on a Saturday?
I would say it was probably, let's see, Ken, maybe 11, 12 o'clock, and it hit the papers the next morning. So he wanted to get this call in before we didn't have to see it in the paper.
Jeez.
So that's pretty much he said. And I said, I've never met with him, never talked to him since. The only time I've ever heard from him or seen him, anytime he saw me later than that, he would go the other way. But he never spoke to me after that. That was the only thing that last time I ever was on this phone call. And so I said, and I just said, I got to tell you this. I said, you're one of the most egotistical, arrogant, in love with yourself, narcissist son of a guns I've ever met. And he said, you're threatening me? I said, no, I just want to, you can't treat people like you're treating people. It's just, it's going to catch up. So anyway, then I called John Christensen, and he was, I think, on his way back. That was the president.
Okay.
The friend.
Okay.
Close friend. 32 years. We'd known each other. And he said, yep, it's true. I said, John, what? You're going to, and he just losing the respect of all the people that he'd been, the wrestling people. And I said, is this the best you can do? This is the best you can do. And that's the last time I ever talked to him. It was on the phone, never saw him, never, that kind of thing. So anyway.
And to fill folks in, you mentioned that University of Nebraska Omaha, they wanted to go Division I. To do so required either a certain amount of money, or they had to drop programs to make room for, I don't know if it was more budget, but they wanted their hockey team to be a Division I powerhouse is the net of it. And so they cut wrestling, which was the most successful program by far. The night of the Nationals, I just can't get over it. And so what transpired after that? You had to have all kinds of rallies, all kinds of initiatives to try and bring the program back. Was it ever close to being brought back?
Well, we thought it's got to go through the regions, so, and then here's the thing. It couldn't be a money thing, because when we came there, when I took the job in 1979, our operating budget was $22,000.
Mm-hmm.
That year it was $21,000. We raised $100,000 to $120,000 a year to operate our budget. And I always told I had 14. I've had 22 athletic directors in my 51 years, right?
Wow.
22. So he was the 14th I've had there, the 14th different one. Where one leaves, you put an interim in,
mm-hmm.
That either stays on or goes and the next one comes in. So I had 14 of them.
Mm-hmm.
He was 14th, and so, find a way to survive and prosper, But this guy, I tell you, you have to hand it to him. He was good at what he did, as far as just lining up the regions. All of it was lined up before. It was all done. It was a done deal. We found out 2 days before we were going to speak to the regions as a group, the football group, the wrestling group, that it was already a done deal. They were going to vote 6-0. And the president of the regions, the president was a friend of mine. He was one of my first athletic director, one of the 22. He was maybe my first or second athletic director at South High School. And they all lied directly to our face, to my face, and how they did it. And you know what? We're not the first ones that run across it. Probably won't be the last, but.
But why? But if it wasn't a money thing, why'd they do it? I don't understand. What was it impacting anyone by having a wrestling team?
The league they wanted to go into didn't have football or wrestling. The Summit League didn't have football then. Well, I don't think it still does. You had to find an associate kind of league to take you in. And shoot, it wasn't 3 or 4 days, and they said there was a league. The league that North Dakota State, Northern Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was the Big 12. It's actually Big 12 now, right? Because they've all joined the Big 12. So they told us, hey, you could come in here. But they had already decided they were going to drop it, and it was a done deal. And I don't know if it was I have to tell you, I don't know if you get time here, but the first time that this new athletic director, and one of the things I take this from my mom. Whenever they did something bad to, she felt was not good to my brother and I or to her, she just wouldn't use their name anymore. So that's why I do this.
I love it. I'm going to start doing it as well.
So I just don't use their name. So she never really said anything bad about him. She just never used their name. So that's just how you handle it. But so we tried to have meetings. We tried to say, well, we're going to get together. This is what we're going to say. Then we found out that what we say It's not going to be. So the group said, well, why would you want to? I said, at least we get to say what we want to say. So we went down there. We made our presentation to the regents, but and like I said, Bob Whitehouse, who is and I shouldn't use his name.
Oh, slipped
but
up.
He was the president of the regents, a friend. I consider him a friend. He was the president of the regents, and it was all done. And so it was a done deal, and so it was done, and it was a human tsunami.
Did you allow yourself to slip into any self-pity, or the positivity stay there the whole time?
Well, the thing is, in the next day, actually, yes, the next day, I was in the restroom with the guys. We met every day, what are we gonna do? The next day after we were dropped, we're thrown in the garbage. The next day, somebody picked us out of the garbage. I got a call on my landline in my office. I had over 600 messages on my cell phone, and people were calling the landline. For some reason, I walked into the office after one of our team meetings. We were just trying to hold it together, have different guys. The news media was there every day. Every day there was a camera in our wrestling room. And Mario Morgan did a great job to kind of came with one of our spokesmen there, and just, our guys stepped, just keeping it positive. I have to tell you another thing before what our guys did. So anyway, I get the phone's ringing in my office. I run in and I pick it up. I said, "This is Jeff Miller from Maryville University." I'm okay. He said, "Well, we would like to see if you'd want to bring your program, many guys you could down here and start a wrestling program at Maryville." I go, "Who is this?" He said, "This is Jeff Miller from Maryville University." I said, "We're at Maryville University." I said, "We're in St. Louis." I said, about 3 times I go, "Who is this really? If this is one of my friends, this is a cruel joke. I'm going to hang up." He says, "No, I'll be up there tomorrow. I'm flying up.
No.
We really want to do this." Yes. The next day he was in the wrestling room. The next day he came into the wrestling room, and this was 2 days after it went down. Maryville University, Jeff Miller, the vice president, a good friend of ours now, and he said, "We want you to." I go, "Okay." So not one time did I have a second thought, and I'll tell you the reasons for that. A victory for all of our alums was to keep it going. I really felt a responsibility to keep it going. And I also felt like God has called me to do this. Met with Creighton University, we got calls from other places, but I just felt like Maryville, once we came down here and took a look at it, and I got my wife, the first recruit. I had to be our first recruit. But one of the things we did, we came back from the national tournament with the trophy. We were locked out of our field house. We couldn't even take our trophy into the field house. And I knew that the security guy, I'd known him for 30 years. And I said, "Joe, let us in." I said, "I can't, Coach." I said, "Joe, let us in." So he did let us in. We didn't even have a place to put our trophy. They wouldn't even let. And then a huge crowd gathered in there, and we talked. And then they had us over, and the athletic director and John Christensen, I'll just call him the vice president or the chancellor. They were sitting there, not talking to us, but just sitting and trying to explain everything. The football players, as soon as it started, got up and walked out. That was their sign. Our sign was this. Our wrestlers were all there in their warm-ups, all looking good. A whole team, not just the ones that wrestled, the whole team. They sat up front. And when they were done, they walked up to the front, all got down on a knee, put their arms around each other, and said a prayer.
Heavy.
It still brings tears to my eyes.
Wow.
And there was coaches, and they just will hang together. And when they walked out, there was tears in other coaches' eyes, because other coaches came to see, what all this is about. And, so I said, "You know what? We got to carry this on. We have to, you know what? We're going to carry it on. Called to do it. And we'll carry it on at Maryville University." So That's what we did.
And here we are.
9 years later, here we are.
Can you believe it's been 9 years? I can't.
I can't either. I can't either. I mean, oh my gosh, it's been 9 years. 9 years.
Well, my last question for you, Coach, is usually we ask, how did wrestling change your life? But for you, it's very obvious. Wrestling is your life, and all the principles you shared kind of echo that. But my question is, what gets you excited to keep coaching after all the success you've had?
Well, you know what? It's every one of those guys. It's every one of our coaches. It's our alumni. It's our, it's our, and kind of our whole family buying it together. They sacrifice. There's, our Rocky and Mickey and Luke they've sacrificed. My wife has sacrificed. But that all together, we've kind of, it's kind of a calling. We've all had to work together on it. And I'm big into team power. Matter of fact, that was part of my Duke's Daily Dose today was, how working together, we can, it's inspire a shared vision. So we've got to, that's why. I mean, it's, wrestling is the vehicle. Although you understand this, Ryan, wrestling is a great vehicle to teach and build. What better vehicle can you find as far as a sport? Because it brings out the best and the worst in us, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
It brings out it's demanding. It's, it takes just everything you have. And that's why it's such a great vehicle to teach and build with. And so you can really use that. But in the sport itself, I mean, I love the sport itself. Just all parts of that. I mean, I coached football, for 10 years in high school, and played it for 7 years after college. So football is, but the rest of I got a lot closer to the guys. There was just that bond, that. Not that football doesn't have it, but it wasn't the same for me as it was in wrestling.
It's a better tool for change. It just simply is, in my opinion.
Yeah. You're right.
Wow.
So, yeah. Called to do it right now. I'm called to do it.
Well, we need you, especially during these times. And I want to thank you for your time, sir. It's been an honor to chat. Andre Morgan has been hyping you up since I met the man. He's like, you got to get Coach Denney. You got to get Coach Denney. I go, let me finish this project, then I will. And as soon as I got done the next day, I wanted to get you back on here. And, shout out to Andre Morgan. He's been a huge help to this podcast. And that's a guy who that's a man of service right there. He just helps people,
Yeah. Well, his son was 14 years we've been together. He was on 3 national championship teams, great leader for us.
How good was that kid back in the day?
Oh my gosh, yeah, he was, and really came on for us. He really came on and I think really grew to what he, was, just his leadership and was a great, and all the great coaches I had, Ron Higdon and Jason Brills and Zach Dominguez and Zach Stoller and all the ones we had up there, for years that just were loyal to us, and all the graduate assistants we had up there, and ones I got now, and Keenan Haggerty, and he's been tremendous for us. And so, George Ivanoff was. We just had, and that's why we keep doing it, right?
That's right.
It's like, and you know what? That's why you keep doing what you're doing. I have to commend you for doing this. I have to commend you for what you do. So thanks for doing it. Thank you. You're making a difference.
And all great things must come to an end. If you want to hear more from the podcast, text WRESTLE to 555-888. That's WRESTLE to 555-888. You can also find us on Instagram, Wrestling Changed My Life, Twitter, Ryan_N_Warner, as well as our website, WrestlingChangedMyLife.com. Take care, y'all. 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 Take care, y'all.